Hey everyone, this is a little screencast of the free response questions that we have done in class. This is the Sewell Bank question, and I'm going to walk through it. Remember that you should pause when you need to go back or rewind or to write things down. If you want a clean copy of this question, you can find it on Aspen. First and foremost, we have our assets and liabilities. Both sides add up to $20,000. And when you get a sheet like this, you should look at the two sides and add them up and just make sure that they're even. And, they probably always will be. But again, we're just sort of making sure we get the lay of the land. So the first question is, based on Sewell's Bank balance sheet, calculate the reserve ratio. So at first glance, it looks like the reserve ratio is going to be 10% because we have 20,000 on the right and 2,000 over here in the required reserves. But unfortunately, the owner's equity is not something that can be loaned out. Owner's equity is essentially, let's pretend this bank, the owner put $50,000 to start the bank. Now the bank has earned $60,000 in revenue, and instead of taking the $10,000 in profit and running off to Cabo for the week and going on a vacation or, putting a down payment on a new car, this owner has decided that the money is going to go towards making the bank a more profitable and better institution for its customers. So they invest $7,000 of the equity into bonds, which are going to earn the bank interest, which is a great thing for them. It's more profit in the end. And then the building, so maybe they want to have a drive-through for customers so they can do a quick in and out of the bank. So that's where that 10,000 is going. So the reserve ratio is actually 20% because 2,000 is 20% of the total demand deposits. So demand deposits are the only thing that we can draw our reserves from. And that is an important learning point. So if you're looking at this question and you're thinking to yourself, I didn't know that about owner's equity and demand deposits, be excited because now you do. So we're going to move on to part B. I'm just going to erase some of this stuff so it's cleaner for us. Now, in Part B, it says, suppose the Federal Reserve purchased $5,000 of bonds from Sewell Bank, which would make perfect sense that they have $5,000 to give. There's $7,000 there. That's going to turn this into $2,000. And then what will the dollar amount or dollar value of each of the following immediately after the purchase? And the key word here is immediately. Picture it. The Fed comes in, they buy the bonds. Now the bank has $5,000 that they can loan out to customers that they didn't have before. So the change in the dollar value for the excess reserves is $5,000. Now, why aren't we pulling out 20% and putting it in the required reserves? The reason why is because when the Fed buys bonds from banks, 100% of that money goes into the excess. Now, the demand deposits, they're over here. Ask yourself, the Fed comes in and buys the bonds. Has anybody deposited money into the bank? No. There is zero change immediately after the purchase because the Fed hasn't deposited money as a depositor. They just simply took the bonds and converted them into cash. So they're still an asset for the bank because the bank can loan out that money and earn interest off of it. And that's what an asset is. Something that's going to add value to the bank. So again, I'm just going to erase this stuff so it's a little cleaner for us. That's a part in class that a lot of kids struggled with. So you might want to rewind and listen to that one more time. Part C. Calculate the maximum amount of the money supply that can change as a result of the $5,000 purchase of bonds by the Federal Reserve. Remember that when the Fed buys bonds from banks, 100% of the money is now in the excess. Therefore, all $5,000 can be loaned out. The multiplier is 5 because the reserve requirement is 20%. So that's 1 over 0.2, which turns into 5. 5,000 times 5 is 25,000, and you should be excited because you learned how to do that multiplication skill when you were in the 3rd grade. So your math skills are perfectly capable to handle this. D, when the Federal Reserve purchases bonds, what will happen to the price of bonds on the open market? And this is an instance where while we did not have to draw the money market graph in this question for the answer, it's really helpful if we visualize the money market graph. So I'm just going to do a real rudimentary drawing here just so we can visualize it. And remember, they bought bonds from the bank, so when we buy bonds, the money supply gets bigger. We shift it to the right. So interest rates have now fallen as a result of this. So in order for me to know what will happen to the price of bonds, I have to know what's happening to interest rates. So since interest rates fell and interest rates and bond prices are inversely related, the price of bonds are going to increase because interest rates have fallen. And for your explanation, you would explain because interest rates have fallen and bond prices and interest rates are inversely related. Lastly, suppose that instead of the purchase of bonds by the Fed, an individual deposits $5,000 of cash into her checking account. What is the immediate effect of the cash deposit on the M1 measure of the money supply? So in class, a lot of kids wanted to multiply the 5,000 by 5 and then remove the required reserves. But that's actually not what this question's asking you. It says, what's the immediate effect of the cash deposit on M1? Remember, M1 is cash and checking. So if she's depositing cash into her checking, there has been no change to M1 as a result of this. All we've done is now there's more checking than there was cash before. So hopefully, walking through this question again, or for the first time if you were absent, was helpful. This is the rubric if you want to see exactly what the College Board is looking for. So I would pause the screen so you can see that. Take care.